A little less than 24 hours ago, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez put out a couple of tweets that give us an incredible insight into the implosion that's happening on the left. Now, I have to admit that I spent most of the morning fairly angry after having read what she had written, but then it dawned on me. The training kind of kicked in. There has to be a second level of this. What's really going on? And then it occurred to me, oh, that's right. I'm dealing with a child. Now, most people wouldn't refer to a 30-year-old woman as a child, but when you really look at where she's coming from emotionally, she's still stuck in college. And that's what's informing her decisions and her tweets and everything else that she does. It occurred to me that I very much doubt Miss Cortez ever had parents that sat down and read her the Bible or gave her any kind of moral guidance whatsoever. And without that, where would you end up? Where would anyone end up? Exactly where she is, especially given her surroundings. New York 14, the Bronx. Now we're going to start today's video with this quote from the right. Before you judge my life, my past, or my character, walk in my shoes, walk the path I have traveled, live my sorrows, my doubts, my fear, my pain and my laughter. Remember, everyone has a story. When you've lived my life, then you can judge me. That not only applies to Miss Cortez, but the people that she's also judging in her tweets. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are scratching your head about, what did you mean by second level? Miss Cortez made these tweets talking about how Republican senators and congressmen make fun of her because she was a bartender. They're not making fun of her because she was a bartender. They're making fun of her because she believes her time as a bartender makes her qualified to do what she's doing, and that she continually leans on that time and uses it as an example of what qualifies her to be a congresswoman. You see, that's the part that's funny. Because we all have time that we spent in our youth doing things that were hard and difficult, and sometimes we look back at them and we make them harder and more difficult than what they really were. But even at another level, it wasn't the bartending that I think bothered her. It wasn't the having to carry the heavy trays of beer or, clean up the messy stuff or the late hours. It was more than likely the way she was treated as a fairly attractive female bartender in the Bronx. I am sure that she had to put up with a lot of inappropriate comments, perhaps some inappropriate touching, and probably a whole lot of inappropriate looks. And that is what has informed her anger, because she seems to direct a lot of her anger at men, not women. And ironically, probably most of those inappropriate activities came from liberal Democratic men, given that the Bronx is mostly all Democrats and liberals. Now, some might say, wait a minute, McKee, hold on. You show pictures of girls in bikinis all the time. How in the world can you then now say what you just said? Well, maybe it comes from being in Florida too long. I don't know. But there is a way that you can walk by a girl in a bikini at the beach, and you don't have to give yourself a whiplash, and you can just smile and keep walking. She knows you saw her. You know you saw her. And you leave it be. At that. If they didn't want to be seen, they wouldn't dress like that, and they wouldn't be at the beach. If they wanted to tan, they'd stay home. If that's all it was about. So there's a way to maintain class and maintain decorum. But drunk men in bars aren't really known for that. And I really think that's what this is about. Now, what are the tweets? Well, it's all over Fox News. GOP critics fire back after AOC suggests Republicans can't handle working as a waitress. Let's read what she actually said so that we don't get misquoted. Very top of your screen is kind of small. I'll go ahead and read it for you. 18 hours ago, her tweet. The thing that these conservative senators don't seem to understand is that I've actually had a physically difficult working class job without good health care most of my adult life. I bring that work ethic and, pardon me, let's see if I can speak English today. I bring that work ethic to Congress and to my community. They sit around on leather chairs all day. Broad brush much? And then 1 hour later, she posts this. Republicans, now not just talking about senators, like to make fun of the fact that I used to be a waitress. But we all know if they ever had to do a double, they'd be the ones found crying in the walk-in fridge halfway through their first shift because someone yelled at them for bringing seltzer when they wanted sparkling water. Okay, now, once again, let me reiterate. We're dealing with a child. One of the reasons I don't do Twitter and Facebook is because it's designed for emotionalism. It's designed for when you have a thought pop into your head, you can just splurge it out to society without thinking about it. Facebook and Twitter are designed for emotionalistic responses to things. Spur of the moment, 150 character, blah, 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 without thought. Now, let's look at some of these Republicans, the evil ones that have never done any hard work in their life, and let's see if that's actually true. Let's start here in Florida. This is Representative Michael Waltz, retired Green Beret, 45 years old. I wonder if a Green Beret could handle a shift as a waitress in the Bronx. Before his election to Congress, Waltz served in a senior role at the Pentagon as Director of Afghanistan Policy, Office of Secretary of Defense. But of course, married with one child, Waltz served in the U.S. Army for 21 years, having been deployed all over the world as a decorated Special Forces officer with multiple combat tours to Afghanistan, led the search for Bo Bergdahl, and was awarded 4 Bronze Stars, including 2 for valor. Graduate of the Virginia Military Institute. Those VMI cats don't play. They're some of the toughest out there. So I'm sure that Congressman Michael Waltz, Florida, probably could handle a shift as a waiter. Now, this man never served in the military, but he's also here from Florida. The Honorable Gus M. Bilirakis, born in Gainesville, grew up in Tarpon Springs, son of immigrants. He lives in Palm Harbor and is the grandfather owned a local bakery where he worked from a young age. So, probably knows a little bit about hard work with Greek parents, having to work in a bakery. This is one of my favorites. I'm sure this is somebody high up on her list that she thinks is one of these evil, terrible, horrible conservative Republicans because he's fairly wealthy now. But let's look at his history back when he was her age. This is Vern Buchanan. Grew up, and he's a representative for here in Florida. Buchanan grew up in Inkster, Michigan, small town outside Detroit. Son of a factory foreman and a family of 6, his maternal grandparents immigrated to the United States from Finland. When he graduated from high school in '69, he joined the Michigan Air National Guard, serving there for 6 years. Buchanan got a bachelor's degree in business administration from Cleary, and then a master's in the same thing from the University of Detroit. Named Legislator of the Year by the Humane Society of the United States. Now you're probably asking, what does that have to do with hard work? But think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. The only legislator in the 20-year history of that award to have won it twice. You would think animal cruelty, that's definitely a Democrat liberal thing, right? I mean, it's not that conservatives don't like animals, but that's kind of one of their planks. And here's a quote from him. Preventing animal cruelty and protecting threatened wildlife are bipartisan issues that we can all get behind. See, the ideas working together here. Buchanan said, I'm humbled to have been able to help pass important legislation that will protect animals across the country from abuse whether it's protecting endangered species like Florida's beloved manatees from extinction, banning the torture of pets, or ending the cruel and inhumane treatment of horses, I'm honored to fight in Congress on these important issues. Here's a Republican woman from Washington, Kathy McMorris. Some of you might remember her. She gave the response to the 2014 Barack Obama State of the Union. Born on May 22, 1969 in Salem, Oregon, daughter of Corrine Robinson and Wayne McMorris, family initially came to the American West in the mid-19th century as pioneers along the Oregon Trail. Now pay attention to the dates here. This is important. In 1974, when McMorris was 5 years old, her family moved to Hazelton, British Columbia, Canada. The family lived in a cabin while they built a log home on their farm. In 1984, 10 years later, so how old is she? She's 15. The McMorris family settled in Kettle Falls, Washington, and established the Peachcrest Fruit Basket Orchard and Fruit Stand. McMorris worked there for 13 years. From the time she was 15 to the time she was 28, she worked in an orchard. That is hard work. That is back-breaking work. That's the kind of work that will do permanent damage to you, picking fruit. But now she's a representative. So she's probably got the stones to handle a waitress shift or a bartender shift. And don't get me started on this spoiled, rotten Republican baby here. This is Brian Mast, another representative from Florida. After graduating from South Christian High School in 1999, Mast enlisted in the United States Army Reserve. May 2000, and went on to become a combat engineer. 2006, transitioned to the active U.S. Army and became an explosive ordnance disposal technician. Mast later joined the 28th Ordnance Company, served in Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. On September 19th, 2010, while clearing a path for United States Army Rangers in Kandahar, Mast took a wrong step into an IED along the road. The explosion resulted in the amputation of both his legs and his left hand index finger, and now serves in Congress. Another one of these spoiled, rich Republicans never having had to do anything hard in their life. Really? See, a lot of this would make you angry, and I was at Ms. Cortez. Absolutely. Absolutely angry at her. But then I had to think. You see, it applies to her too. It applies to her too. I haven't walked a step in her shoes. I have daughters and wouldn't like the idea of what they would have had to go through being a bartender and a waitress in the Bronx. I'm not excusing what she did, not excusing what she said. But I have to think. I really have to think that probably nobody spent any amount of time sitting down with her as a young woman, as a child, with the Bible, and teaching her about not judging others and how that's a trap. That how you're going to be judged as much as you judge others. When you start to broad brush people, they're going to broad brush you. But I'm sure, in fact, I'm absolutely 100% positive, 100% positive that this was just an emotional moment she had. And she blurted out something without thinking about the long-term ramifications of judging all Republicans or all conservatives, especially people she works with. All of these examples that I used are people in the House of Representatives. Every single one of them. This man is Vern Buchanan, 8th wealthiest. So I'm sure that he's one of these guys on her list. But he didn't start that way. This woman worked in an orchard. This guy had his legs blown off. And I always thought this was a Really great poem, great song. Because this goes back a long time. People like to judge. It's easy to judge. It's easy to knee-jerk reaction judge people. And I see this a lot. And it goes both ways. Conservatives do it to Democrats. Democrats do it to liberals. Liberals do it to progressives. Progressives do it to everyone else. So, as much as I would like to be angry with her and encourage my audience to be angry with her, I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to encourage my audience to pray for her. That maybe she has that little moment where she realizes, hey, there's as much wrong with me as there is anyone else. That she herself is quite blessed, given the money that she's making now. That perhaps it's not appropriate to just label people as having had a silver spoon in their mouth when you don't know. When you don't know. Before you judge anyone's life, their past or their character, walk in their shoes, walk the path they've traveled, and live everything they've lived through. Only then could you really judge someone. So I guess I will leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.